Good. Great. And I'll ask the same of you. Yeah, all right. Helen. All right. Well, no wonder with that shirt on. You could just...
Everybody can see you out in the streets.
Or in the woods. Or wherever you are. That's not going to blend in anywhere. No, sir.
Be visible. And again, the more visible you are, the more party.
We just got to keep moving.
Yes.
Just keep moving. If that's too loud for you.
No, you know, if you all would speak up, I can leave it on.
Then they'll hear us. But thanks for the suggestion. Oh, Patrick, smile. Let's put a big smile. There you go. There. Well, I think should all be good at your age.
Not all of them.
Oh, okay. Well, that was yesterday. Yesterday gave you today. There you are.
Yesterday was a bad day by the time today started.
Oh, okay. I got you.
I had my first court appearance at 10:30 today, and yesterday by 10:30 I had 2 disasters. Although they went well, like results-wise.
Right.
Just wanted to choke the life out of people.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good for you. Yeah.
Thank you. I printed it out. I'm just leaving.
And the older you get, the more you want. Well, look who's back.
My pockets are a little
I was going to say
heavier.
I was going to say they're not turned inside out.
No, my pockets are a little heavy.
Okay. Well, that could mean a couple.
It's about
Okay, well, that makes sense. There's your gas money. Just this way.
Elizabeth? Oh, sorry. How are you doing today?
Hey, how's it going?
You have an extra, so you just put your file on there. Okay.
Let's just finish this shit.
Mike, is that the one you wanted?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. It's on there somewhere.
Yep, just on your main first page.
Okay.
would say a couple days in meetings for like.
Okay, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the City of Plattsburgh Common Council Finance and Budget Committee. The first business of the day is a roll call.
Counselor Kelly,
Here.
Counselor Ensel,
here,
Mayor Reed,
Present.
Counselor Dowdle,
Here.
Counselor McFarland,
Here.
Counselor Kretzer.
Here.
Okay, and at this point in the meeting, we would also like to recognize Chamberlain Marks, who's with us today. This is the point in the meeting where we invite members of the public to come speak to us about any concerns they have about city finance and budget. Seeing no one from the public come forward, we will start our agenda today. That's item number 2. First item is a report from Richard Marks, our city chamberlain. Then we have a healthcare update, department reorganization, savings year today, the assessor's report, and 2019 mayor's budget. We're going to get an update on how the progress is going with that and challenges they're facing. And then number 6, we're going to strike from the agenda. The results from the state controller's exam have not been finalized, so we have nothing to report yet.
That's not really an examination, it's just a review of the AUD.
I know.
It's not like full-blown examination, they're just recategorizing.
Yes.
The reporting on it to be put in different.
It's much more than an examination, and I have to get in the habit of calling it a checklist or
Status report.
A review of the AUD is what it should be called. By the state. And then they accept it once they make their judgment calls on we should be classified. That's all going to be reclassification.
We do have an audit coming out soon though, yeah.
The real report that we're looking for is our financial statement presentation from our outside auditors, and that's the full-blown audit of the city's books.
right.
We're about half finished with that.
That's our bond rating, essentially?
Not really. That's our financial statements to support the financial information that's used in the bond rating. But our bond rating is actually done by Moody's. They prepare it. But they look at our financial statements with interest because of that and the AUD. They look at both those reports very, very thoroughly. The financial statements are half done, and we've lost the auditors to the school district office that started in July. So we're gonna have to fight to get them back to kind of competing for their time.
Mr. Marks, I put up on the screen our year-to-date spending and revenue chart. If you want to speak to that, please.
Which one, that 2018?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're 50% through the year, and you can see where the 50% line is. And there's only a couple of revenue items that fit there. Obviously, the parking lot, which is generally way ahead up there in revenue the early part of the year. Because it's a small revenue item, most of it comes in from property taxes, and of course, all but about 50% of the property taxes have been collected for the year already. General fund revenue you see is in, and of course, that's mostly from property taxes as well. The nice part is that all the blue columns, the spending, are well below 50%. So that's the positive news. The numbers for these bars are on the next slide. If there's any specific questions about those. So the general fund is 2.9 million positive in net results. That's revenues over expenditures. And those are adjusted revenues. We're adjusting out the receivables for the remainder of the property taxes, which is probably about $1.7 million. And indirect complex is negative 54,000. And there's some timing on the ahead by 43, water's ahead by 291, sewer's ahead by 465, and library's behind by 73. Most of the library's issues with that spending is from their capital reserves.
Any questions about that slide before we move on?
Yeah, I have a question. So, most of the revenues were under the 50% mark, other than the general fund and the parking, which you said we're collecting revenues from property taxes. Is that concerning? Is it indicative that at the end of the year, the revenues might be less than budgeted, or is it just a timing issue?
It's timing mostly. Like when you look at the rec complex, if you go back to the first slide, where you can see, you know, that revenue bar in yellow on the rec complex. Really, none of the beach is in there yet, because the beach wasn't open until when?
July 21st.
21st. June. We really didn't start getting any revenues compiled until into July. We started getting revenue from it. So, I mean, that's got an impact. And there's program income that comes in at different times of the year. There's fall soccer that's going to be a big boost to rec complex at the end of the year. So, a lot of it is timing, like you said.
Any other questions before we move on?
I just have a question for you, Richard. When you look at the revenues if you could go back the slide, Mike, could you go back one slide?
Go back up?
Please,
Sure.
yes, thank you.
Sure.
When you look at the areas, and I mean, you just addressed the one with the rec complex, where their revenues are below their expenditures for the 50% mark. I guess what I'm looking at, I'm asking is, we are at the halfway point, but where does the expenditures stand against the revenue? I mean, if these continue to this degree, then we're still going to be, we're not going to be as far ahead as we are projecting to be.
One of the timing issues on the rec complex is their June transfer from the general fund, $21,794, isn't in those numbers yet. When it was done in the first week of July, it wasn't posted back to June like I had asked for it to be done. It was overlooked. So that would bump that number up $21,000, which would take it up over $400,000. It's still be $42,000 less than the expenditures, but then again, the timing of the expenditures is consistent every week with payroll and heats and lights and so forth and so on. And the program revenue is at different times during the year. So the only thing I would really want to say about those numbers, and I think I sent it to you in an email, is all their program revenue was ahead, net ahead, total, by
7,200.
7,200. And their expenses are behind last year at this time by 103,000. So they've improved.
Good.
And the biggest factor is the general fund is sending $13,614 less every month this year than last year. Because last year they were being funded to the tune of $455,000 from the budget. This year it's only $281,000.
That's payroll cuts.
It's based on the budgeted cost for this year, which includes those payroll cuts.
Payroll and insurance.
Cost cuts, yes.
Health
So
insurance.
that's $163,000 less that the general fund's going to have to pay the rec complex fund to keep it in business than last year. So that's a huge improvement. And that's got a lot of impact on why the general fund is doing well as far as its increase over last year.
And the revenues are up. And the program revenue is up.
Yeah, 7,200. So far, so good. So it's improving, I think.
And the people working in the rec center, the management team over there, do an incredible job. They know that they've been left a little bit of a hole to fill from previous budgets, and they're making a lot of changes and watching things much more carefully, generating more revenue, collecting more cash at the beach gate. Their controls are much better, and I'd like to give them 6 months to a year to see if they can really turn that around, and they're really rising to the challenge of that. So I'm optimistic that they'll turn it around. but they don't underestimate at all the hole they're digging themselves out of.
Thank you very much, Richard, and council members, for your good questions.
I also have a question about savings on, follow up with Josh at Cuts. Is it reflecting like the deputy chamberlain is still a vacant item, correct?
Half of that position is being funded now.
It is?
Yes.
Okay, so the other half is,
Still to be hired. I'm short of positions right now, still.
A
So it's
little
a
bit
temporary
later in our
savings.
agenda.
It's a temporary
we have a
savings.
discussion of that, Dale.
okay,
But one thing that's in the numbers that you'll see in the details further on in the report that I sent out, there was a $30,000 payment for, the separation of that position that's affected our numbers, wasn't budgeted, so that's a blip in the negative for our finance department. But we're still gonna come in under budget because our payroll is gonna be very favorable. It's gonna be a surplus there.
okay. And the gaps between people leaving and people getting hired, is that money that's basically saved during those gaps, is that being factored into this as well?
It's in these numbers. There's
Okay.
a report that we have that shows the departmental changes that take place last year's budget versus this year's, where we have,
It's gonna be up on the screen shortly.
Okay.
okay,
All right.
that's a positive. In the general fund, includes the finance department and all the other departments that are affected. So
All the other departments included?
all the
Okay.
other departments that were affected, recreation, rec admin, and the rec complex, and all the general fund departments are in that report.
And the fire department's in there is?
The fire department is in there now
Okay.
because nothing was really consolidated or reorganized with the fire department. It's just that their costs are measured this year versus last year with different headcount, but higher overtime, et cetera.
Okay, different head count, yes, okay.
We're gonna stick to our agenda just so we
All
make
right.
sure we get everything in, but that is on the agenda, Dale.
Okay.
And,
I like the
we'll be able
questions.
to talk about it.
I like the questions. Eats up the time.
Well, you told me 11 minutes, I only got to 9, sorry, go ahead.
You're doing good.
All right.
You're doing good.
Some other bullet points about the general fund. As you saw, our revenue year-to-date exceeds spending by 2.9 million. And lest we get all excited about that and think, my goodness, what a fund balance we're going to have. This surplus exceeds last year's year-to-date, half a year, by $800,000. So while still impressive, let us not assume that the $2.9 million surplus that we have right now is the way it's going to be at the end of the year. Okay? Let's be very cautious about that. The good news is we are ahead of last year by about $800,000, and that's a good thing, and we can take that to the bank, so to speak. But let's be
Remember,
cautious
last
about
year, you
that.
also had a relatively ambitious budget as well. You already started trimming in that first week of January when Councilor Ansel joined us. So to be ahead of an ambitious budget from last year, I think you're going in the right direction.
That is impressive, and we are continuing the cost controls that are making this happen. So this is attributable then to our reorganization, large healthcare savings, departmental cost containment measures, et cetera. But as I said before, this does not mean our fiscal work is finished. We have much more work to do.
The emails I sent out last night had all the major the high points, let's call it,
Yeah, we're gonna put some of those up on the screen.
for that $790,000 improvement.
The year-to-date healthcare update, our savings are a result of lower staffing, better healthcare experience. Year-to-date savings over last year is $268,288. So you can see that's a large portion of that $800,000 surplus we have.
Now, that number though is across the board.
Yes,
That's through all funds, that's not just the general fund. The general fund savings on the healthcare is
it's right up on the screen.
especially with Burnham and Associates, I think is helping us manage those quite well. We're very pleased with how that's turning out and helping us manage healthcare costs.
Yes, yes. They're a good resource for us. So which one of those is the general fund, Richard?
That's the entire healthcare
Okay.
set of accounts. The one on the very top is the general fund.
General
I don't know if you can blow that up any larger.
Probably can.
Just a little dull. The general fund last year at this point in time was $2,181,000, and now it's $2,023,000. Column 1 of numbers versus column 4. So it's about $150,000 better in the general fund for the healthcare out of the 268, 288 across the board.
That's excellent.
That includes all funds.
Excellent.
It's early yet, and of course, the warmer season, you have lower claims. When the cold and flu season comes, it ratchets up pretty high. But, so far so good.
Any questions about healthcare and how we arrived at the $268,288 savings this year? I want everybody to fully understand and embrace what's happening here. There's a lot going on. Let's see. Next item on our agenda is department reorganization and our savings year to date. So I can put that up on the screen. Let's see. And each of you received these in email, so you should be able to review them at your leisure. But quickly, you can see that, well, if you want to explain, Richard, please do.
Well, the first part of this report, it goes through there's 4 pages. Shows $224,383 in the general fund, and then the total is $239,445 with the rec complex fund included. All these departments that are listed here are ones that had a change from last year because of reorganization, like the finance office moved to City Hall. Assessment has been transferred to accounting. Human resources has been absorbed into finance. Engineering department has been absorbed into the infrastructure division. Community development has taken on more costs than last year. And the system IT and rec admin are both eliminated, and so forth. So you go down the list of these things, and you look at the 2018 actual numbers that total $542,000 versus $766,000 last year at this time for those departments when they were so-called fully staffed.
Mike, can you go up to assessment? I just, a quick question for you, Richard.
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
On that page, or the next page up. Here you go. Under, with assessment, for 2017, total expenses were 61.5.
Right.
Through
And,
July, that is through June 30th.
okay,
of
right,
last year.
right. And to date, we have budgeted 132.9 for this year.
Right.
And we've only expensed 16,000. Are there payments that are there a number of payments that we still have to pay out to the county, or?
Yeah, we have to be billed by the county for their services. We haven't been charged yet. But I think the mayor got a revision on their costs for the year. I'm not sure what the expectation was on that.
Quite a bit lower than $126,000. It's about $106,000.
106, 105, 595, something like that, right?
Okay.
Your middle office.
So we're looking at a potential $20,000 savings over and above what we've already.
Now, where we're over in budgeting is the contract services, and this is the Article 78 defenses, property assessment adjustments and attorney's fees. Now, we're gonna be able to recover some of those. I have to get into the details of who we can recover from. I think the county and the school district are both gonna share those costs with us. So there's some to be recovered there.
We've constructed an agreement with them to cost share because we argued that our diligence in trying to solve some of these tax cases, the best interest of our taxpayers, is actually good for them too. So they're cooperating with us. As a matter of fact, we have met with them all
Is
yesterday.
that the county or the school board?
County and the school district are both very happy to work with us. And they're actually also very happy with the outcomes that we're now establishing in our tax cases. We had a review with them yesterday. Also, notice on assessment, though, it doesn't also include the healthcare and long-term liabilities to our OPEB or pensions, et cetera. So I think we're saving really, really significantly for our taxpayers, and from every indication, getting superior service from Tim Sapiski and his office as well.
And in the interest of time, I would refer you to Mr. Martin's report that we received an email. Please take a look at it. If you have any more questions, please feel free to ask. Our assessor's office report, some of this we've already talked about. Our 2017 year-to-date costs of the city last year, $61,000. Year-to-date costs of the city this year, $15,356. 2017 budget, 132, and our office fees, we've just been assessed for the entire year, are going to be $105,843. So, big savings over what we budgeted. Something we should be happy about. I have the assessor's report. He sent it by email. I'm going to share it with you because you asked me last month to do that. So here it is, and I will forward this to you after the meeting. But it basically says July 1st, when the 2018 assessment roll takes effect, and this roll will be used to levy the 2018-2019 school taxes and the 2019 city county taxes. On the 2018 roll, there are 5,096 parcels, which I am responsible. That is, Tim Serpitsky, our assessor, is responsible for 5,079 of those properties. The other 17 are determined by New York State. The assessed value is 1.4 billion. City taxable value is about 950 million. Let's see. There are exempt properties. A very important statistic here is that the taxable value on the 2018 roll increased by $5 million for city purposes. So if you guys remember, we made a 10-year plan that called for a 1% increase in taxable properties. So we're a little low there. We're at about 0.53%. So we're going to have to adjust our 10-year plan to reflect this reality.
Do we have any idea, just from a physical percentage standpoint of our property, the physical percentage of how much of it is tax exempt? Is it about 33%?
34.
34.
Based on these numbers, yeah, the new numbers. Used to be as high as 40, so it's coming down, which is good.
Yeah.
It's a 6% improvement since I started working.
And that's because of new properties being built?
And they're taxable. Now, of course, if we could return some of these Article 78 grievances to reasonable assessed numbers, some that have been reduced ridiculously low, that's going to have an impact as well.
St. John, the old St. John School.
Manual investments, Plattsburgh Suites, they'll have a big impact.
Okay, this is the last item on our agenda tonight. It's the 2019 mayor's budget. Just ask the mayor to give us an update on progress he's making and any challenges he's facing. I thought the council might like to know. So, Mayor, I'll turn it over.
Sure, do you want to put up that spreadsheet
I can do
in the
that.
bottom part of it with the yellow
Yeah.
stuff? By the way, on the top, we've already incorporated the revised property tax growth is a little bit less than we were hoping for. But a little bit farther down, these yellow columns are year-to-date expenditures and revenues. And when we put in different years, different months, for instance, the data right now is up to the end of June. pretty soon we'll put the end of July number in and put another date at the top of that column. And then it'll automatically generate, based on extrapolation, the expected expenditures in the various departments till the end of the year. So that yellow column are estimates of remaining expenditures to the end of the year, and we do that every month. And then we ask Richard to go and proof that yellow column and say, well, you know, I don't think the first half or the first 7 months is reflective of the last 5 months because there's these big expenditures early on in the year or later on in the year, etc. So we then refine that column line item by line item to get a better estimate of where we think we're going to be at the end of the year. So that's the process we're working at right now to give us a snapshot of where we think we'll be at the end of 2018. And at the end of 2018, we're going to look and say, some of these savings that are coming in under budget, do we expect them to be permanent or relatively temporary? If they're permanent, we can hopefully bake them into the subsequent year and meet some of the goal of $650,000 reduction for next year that the council gave us. And at the same time, Richard's office is just completing an analysis of what he expects the payrolls for the various departments will be next year. He'll then feed that to the various departments. They're going to look at all those numbers, our best guesses, our expectations of payrolls with mandatory increases, etc. And they're going to proof it, and then we all sit together and then decide what we think is feasible for next year. So that process is well underway. Rich will probably have done his thing in the next week or so, and we'll start getting the departments involved, kind of groups at a time, to proof that, and then that'll allow me to put my budget out. We do hope that budget will come out, as I've said earlier, by the end of August, sometime in August.
That was the last item on our agenda. Conclusions are that our departments are finding efficiencies at a lowering cost. You can see that in our revenue reports. Our healthcare costs are under control, but we as a council need to provide continuous monitoring. Our departmental reorganization is having its intended effects. We have lower costs, little or no reduction in services. And we're finding that targeted savings in 2019 will be easier because of the work that we're doing now to keep these items under control. Budgeting for 2019 will be a little bit easier. So we're very happy about that. It really is a team effort of the entire city. The finance guy, Mr. Marks, his staff, the mayor, the council, and all of our departments working hard together. So great job, City of Plattsburgh. Thank you.
And I might add, there's one other dividend that doesn't really get reflected in the the next year budget. These are potential OPEB savings, other post-employment benefits, primarily health care for our retirees. As we kind of shrink the size of government, we're also saving in a lot of those long-term liabilities as well that we won't see for a number of years perhaps, but will definitely be making the job of future councils easier as well. And by the way, I can't think of an example where we've actually reduced services in any way. As a matter of fact, in many ways, we're increasing services. The best example is perhaps the road construction. You all are slated to do about 15 times more roads this year than we did in the 2017 capital plan that we completed. So in many ways that the taxpayer is going to very soon see, first of all, being relatively disruptive, but by the fall, see almost 3 more miles of additional roads. This is an example of doing a lot more, in this case with somewhat less, because you've been cutting and economizing just as much as all the other department heads have as well. So I hope that the public understands that we're not doing this by cutting services, we're doing this by managing our resources better.
Okay. We have one agenda item brought forward from the departments to be approved by committee and recommended to council. That is a request from John Ruff for council approval of CAPS CSO improvements, Water Quality Improvement Act grant application. John, would you like to tell us anything about this, sir?
We're required by our speedies permit and long-term control plan to do some upgrades at CAPS. And just recently realized that one of the state funding programs looks like CAPS is a pretty good fit for it. So applications are due in about 10 days. So crashed out an application, have it almost ready to go, and just want for authorization to apply for it and electronically sign all this stuff that's got to be signed and all that.
And I'd ask you, in your array of projects, how that stands up, and you demonstrated this is probably the best bang for the buck right now, the best way to spend that money.
It's another one of these where we have to do it regardless, so any money that we're able to get, we just help our bottom line.
Thank you very much, John.
Make a motion to accept it and move forward onto the agenda, meeting agenda.
I second. Roll call?
Counselor Ansel?
Yes.
Is there any old business? Any new business? With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And let's then begin our work session. There's one matter pending litigation regarding Plattsburgh Plaza. If somebody be willing to entertain a motion, move into executive session. Moved by Councilor Ensign, second by Councilor Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I won't say this won't take long, but I really do think it won't take long.
He lives 2 doors from now.
I would have thought you wouldn't have wear a fluorescent shirt. Like the champions, Campbell. That's fine. But if you put, put your shirt. What's up with you? This is Carla. Would you mind getting Mr. Lieutenant Leo and the rest of us little speech from your office? One, I'll take it. Just I called him. I called him.
I was on vacation.
Just he doesn't care.
But I didn't have a good time, he's resting.
Thanks a lot. You got us there.
What?
You got us. You got us?
Oh, thanks.
Who was that? That wasn't her?
That was me.
Oh, here I thought Jenna was looking so awesome last week.
It probably was. Oh, I mean, comes.
Jenna, like,
John,
It's a team effort. It takes a village to raise a player. I
First item.
Oh, okay.
Table item.
Oh, good.
Yes, you can speak during this time, because this time is for dinner. You're welcome.
Break off.
That's not good. It's quiet, it's not good. I mean, some mulling it over. Get a quick answer? So, show it to them. Yeah. This is what it says. It's not there. Where you have that document? She has. Send this. Let me forward that. You send it to me. I'll forward that. Take out, here's additional
He started it.
You guys talking about down on the waterfront?
Yeah.
Isn't that water pollution control plan?
We can.
Yeah, we can. MLD games in the city of Delaney for June.
We've been letting you live down there rent free for a long time. Wait till you get that bill, son.
Rock side robot.
I'm glad you guys stick together.
He's just paying
Coffee nonsense.
I can do that at home. I don't need that.
Well, she thought you could go and talk to Paul Gary, but you talk nonsense. I don't have to listen to him. He's not hear enough nonsense. I get money from the fire chief. I'm kidding you. Except when he said something, he started firing out. Yep, no. He's the only one that's in his phone. Well, he told us it's. Well, this portion. Well, I come down the next day. It didn't look too bad. It's the back that's grabbed up. What was that, the second floor? So the front of the building, you can never tell the difference. I know he's the back end.
drives me crazy. I have to take them off, exactly.
I'm gonna fan him out. So he's the start of it. Hopefully it did. Yeah. Nobody signed.
No, they didn't do anything.
Nobody signed.
I have to
Not mine.
No, you don't answer anything.
I do at appropriate times.
We're returning, having discussed a matter of potential litigation with Plattsburgh Plaza. We do have a little bit of time, while no decisions were made. We do have a little bit of time in the work session, if anybody would like to have any extended conversation on any items. And I believe there may be an item for initial consideration too, correct, Mr. McFarland?
Oh. I do have an item for initial consideration, and it's authorizing Leander Boyer Court Bathroom Project and Robert S. Long Air Handler Project in partnership with the Plattsburgh Housing Authority. Whereas the city has received a Small Cities Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, a Community Economics Development Grant, and has Community Development Special Revenue under the Housing and Community Development Act as amended in the amount of $207,440.38. The purpose of which is to benefit at least 51% low to moderate income households or elderly households. And whereas the Plattsburgh Housing Authority has assisted the city with planning for and with the preparation of the application for the Small Cities Community Development Block Grant as aforesaid, and whereas the city desires to engage Plattsburgh Housing Authority as the subrecipient of the residential rehabilitation programs to be implemented by means of said grants in a manner consistent with the city's grant application as approved by the New York State Office of Community Renewal, or NYSOCR. And whereas Plattsburgh Housing Authority is desirous of and has the capability of managing said residential rehabilitation programs as subrecipient. Now therefore, the City of Plattsburgh Common Council duly convened does hereby resolve that the City of Plattsburgh Common Council hereby approves engagement of the Plattsburgh Housing Authority as subrecipient of its above-mentioned grants for the rehabilitation of properties owned by the Plattsburgh Housing Authority within the city, and it is hereby further resolved that the City of Plattsburgh Common Council hereby approves the above subject projects, and it is hereby further resolved that the Mayor of the City of Plattsburgh is hereby authorized to execute all necessary agreements, certifications, and reimbursement requests required to complete the above subject projects on behalf of the City of Plattsburgh.
Are there any of these items that you'd like a little bit of additional time to consider or discuss? You have a minute and a half more.
I could do a quick liaison report.
Sure, could you? Thank you.
I think the only updates from my committee are Councilor Armstrong met with a gentleman, Rory Fisher, who I believe is here tonight. I think he's going to speak at the end of the meeting, possibly. And she agreed to work with him in an effort to pull downtown vendors about their views about banning plastic straws. We talked about that a few weeks ago. I think some preliminary work's been done with a few restaurateurs, and I think so far 3 of the downtown restaurateurs said that they would be on board with it.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion on plastic bags as well?
No, straws first.
Wasn't there an initiative from the governor's office to ban plastic bags in New York statewide
I hadn't heard of that.
It's coming.
and legalize pot, but you won't be able to carry it home in plastic bags? Any other issues? Seeing none, let's begin our common council meeting tonight with our pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Reed,
Present.
Councilor Armstrong, Councilor Kelly,
Here.
Councilor Dowdle.
Here.
Councilor Hensel.
Here.
Councilor McFarland.
Here.
Councilor Prenzer.
Here.
Just a couple of comments. I know you're working through and doing deliberations with regard to the Saranac River Trail, and also tonight there's on the agenda the consolidated funding application. I want to give you a little bit more background because I think there's a fair amount of misinformation. As you know, the city of Plattsburgh is absolutely determined to complete the Saranac River Trail. We're currently completing phase 2 that was approved in June of 2016. You know that the city's share of that represented a taxpayer investment of around $500,000 or $600,000. Our engineering aid and our people in DPW have been working incredibly hard to make sure that there's not any cost overruns. It looked like there was going to be significant cost overruns. And whereas 80% of the initial funding was from DOT and 20% from the city taxpayers, 100% of the overruns tend to be on the city taxpayers. So they're doing a lot of research to figure out a way to find cheaper DOT-approved bridges and bring those costs down. So maybe we limit the taxpayer investment to that to $750,000, $800,000, $850,000, $900,000. Still an awful lot of money to come out of the taxpayer coffers. So I appreciate all your work in trying to reduce those overruns. I'm not exactly sure how those overruns occurred, but it certainly wasn't under your watch. You're trying to fix the problem. You weren't the cause of the problem, and I appreciate your work on that. That phase 2 of the Saranac River Trail actually brings the river trail over from the Pine Street area near the police station, across the river to the NICEAG property, and then across the river back again to what would be the continuation of Durkee Street. From there, the Saranac River Trail phase 2 doesn't actually follow the Saranac River. It moves along Durkee Street and down Bridge Street until it joins the existing trail along the river on the east side of the Saranac River, right down through Monument Park down here. And we're going to complete that and make that investment because we've committed to it. The other issue is not whether we commit to Saranac River Trail phase 3 project. I think you're all committed to it. It's an issue of how we're going to go about doing that. The next phase was, again, not going to be a Saranac River Trail. It was going to bring the pathway down along Green Street quite a distance from the trail. We'd like to see some sort of way to have the Saranac River Trail actually follow the Saranac River. So we want more time to research that, work with DOT on that, have that meld better with the DRI plan, which is going to revitalize the entire Harborside Triangle from MLD right down to Dock Street and the Marina. The other complicating factor is that NICEAG only next year will begin moving the remediation of the river down from where they are, upstream of the Broad Street Bridge, down to between Broad Street and the Veterans Memorial Bridge, and then on to the Gulf of Saranac River, and perhaps even around to where our existing marina is. That, we estimate, is going to take at least half a dozen more years. In the meantime, they're going to be disrupting much of that Saranac River Trail bank area, just as they have where they are right now. So we felt to be premature and a waste of taxpayer money to do a bunch of Saranac River Trail building in an area where it's questionable what NYSEG will still need to do to access and how that will fit into the Dock Street and Harborside expansion plans. So we do plan to do phase 3. Our ideal would be to actually have the Saranac River Trail follow the Saranac River. And we think we can do that, but we need more reflection on this. And I think that's one of the motivations you had and the advice we received from DPW, why it'd be premature to move forward at this time. If you added the overruns from phase 2 with the additional costs from phase 3, we're looking at a figure for taxpayer investment of more than $1 million. That would work out to a 10% tax increase, temporary 10% tax increase for our tax-paying public. We want to make sure every penny of that, more than $1 million, that 10 or 11% tax increase, is very well spent, is not reinventing the wheel, is consistent with our other plans. So I think it's very prudent to sit down and reflect. Now, the second phase was actually, as you know, because this is in the time that Councilor Ensel and I have been on the council, the second phase was before us, but the third phase was passed last summer in June. I can't explain why little had been done from June to October when we had the engineering office, or from October to February when we had the intact community development office intact, but not much was done in that period. The people that are coming in right now, the new director for community development and the DPW and the engineering staff, are now trying to remedy and fix this, but they certainly in no sense are the cause of the delays for this. So I just wanted to correct the record, because there seemed to be a significant amount of misunderstanding about what's causing these delays. I can't explain. We weren't getting reports, we weren't getting updates on the progress of either of these two items, but now we are delving into the records and trying to remedy that, and I appreciate all the help you're doing, first of all, in containment of the cost overruns in phase 2, and second of all, in trying to figure out what would be the most prudent way to continue on with phase 3. We're all dedicated to that. And there is going to be also a phase 4. We want the trail to run farther up beyond the university where it currently is terminated. That land to the upstream to the west of the college is actually on city property, although it almost immediately leaves the city. The city owns a significant amount of property in the town. We're going to be very helpful and instrumental in connecting that phase 4 so we can allow the town to continue on beyond our property someday as well. So we're absolutely determined and committed to all the various phases of the Saranac River Trail, but we want to make sure it's done right. We want to make sure it's affordable. We want to make sure it's done within the budget, and that's what we're working so hard on. So I know there's a lot of misconceptions that the city's not behind the Saranac River Trail. That's simply not true at all. We're just now trying to fix a pretty difficult pickle that we've been placed in. I appreciate your help on that. A similar thing with the consolidated funding application that you'll be talking about and debating a little bit more last night. We're going to be turning over about $200,000 to the Plattsburgh Housing Authority because they've got some immediate need that can help them enhance low-income housing for the city of Plattsburgh. This is a fund that's been on our books for a number of years. A constraint to apply for future CFA funds was we have to get off our books a number of past projects that simply, to be honest, been languishing for many years on our city account. We count actually 23 of them. A municipality our size should have no more than 5 or 6 open projects of these sorts on our books. We have 23. Probably the most significant one is this that we are asking with or cooperating with a PHA to get off of our books. So again, this is something that our community development director inherited. He's assembling an amazing team. Ethan is here, one of his team members. Tara is helping out with it. As you know, we're hiring a planner to help out with us as well, and a new clerk to assist you as well. And meanwhile, Joe's office and DPW and John Ruff's office have been very helpful in moving these things off of our ledgers so we become eligible again for CFA grants. We believe that by doing it in this way, we've demonstrated that we're taking these 23 projects finally to completion after many, many years, and that we'll be in good shape for at least a couple of very strong CFA applications this year in this cycle. Last year, we didn't do any, perhaps because we had so many of these on our books and we were barred from doing it. But this year, we're gonna have at least a couple of good applications. Amy Bond, as you know, has been helping us out with it. And John Ruff has also been instrumental in helping us put together one of the most significant CFA applications this year. So I thank everybody for coming together in a very difficult, challenging environment. I wish I could explain to you more why we're having to dig ourselves out of this hole, but I really appreciate that we are, and we're going to have a very good CFA season, hopefully. So hopefully that explains a couple of the items that you're wrestling with, a little bit more of the background behind it. That's all I have to add tonight.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on July 5th, 2018 and July 12th, 2018 are approved and placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office.
Moved by Councilor Cresser, second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the payrolls of the various departments of the city of Plattsburgh for the week ending July 18th, 2018 in the amount of $534,507.61 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Kelly, second by Councilor Ansel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. You have in your packets our routine reports on fire and ambulance, etc. I know Councilor Kretzer made a report for governance a moment ago. Is there anything you'd like to add to that at this time?
I don't think so. Thank you, though.
I'd like to move on to city infrastructure. Councilor Ansel.
Well, Mayor, as you mentioned earlier, beginning next week, our repaving and resurfacing endeavors go into full operation mode, and residents may for a couple of weeks be a little bit inconvenienced, but in the long run it'll be well worth the inconvenience.
Thank you. That's it. Finance and budget, Councilor Kelly.
We held our monthly meeting today, and I think the best news that came out of that is that the mayor and his team are working hard on our 2019 budget, and the council is ready to receive that and excited to work with you, Mayor. So, thank you.
You gave us some challenging goals, but hopefully we can meet them, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of discussion in the month of August.
Well, because we're building a healthier fund balance this year, perhaps the challenge won't be quite so great as we put it to you. Maybe your cost savings you need to find won't be quite so large as we thought.
Thank you.
We'll see.
Public safety, Councilor Dowdle.
No reports. We'll be meeting next Thursday with an agenda that's being developed.
And municipal lighting, Councilor McFarland.
No reports at this time.
Resolved, the reports as listed are hereby ordered received, and any written reports are placed on file amongst the public record of the city clerk's office. Moved by Councilor Ansel, second by Councilor Kretzer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. There's no correspondences or recommendations from boards at this time, although please expect next week a couple of recommendations, or at least one recommendation for the planning board. The chair of the planning board just asked us to fill a couple of positions. Please continue.
Resolved that the bills audited by the Common Council for the week ending July 20th, 2018 in the amount of $1,773,869.33 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Dowdle and second by Councilor Hensel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. At this point of the agenda, we ask any members of the public who would like to address the council on any issues on the agenda tonight to please come forward. There will be another public comment period for any issue of mutual concern at the end of the meeting. So this is just for agenda items only at this time. Please come forward. And make sure you state your name and your address, and we do have a 5 minute.
Hello? No. Jim Munger, 39 Draper Avenue, Plattsburgh, New York.
I didn't really write out a speech, so I'm going to kind of be all over the place. I'm sorry. I want to talk about the Saranac River Trail for a moment or two, if you don't mind. 10 years ago, maybe when it started, I think the city was really reluctant about this trail, and it's become one of the greatest assets of our city. I'm really convinced. I look at Burlington, I look at Lake Placid, I see people wanting to get outside and walk and move and bike and run and rollerblade or whatever. And I think it's a really important part of our revitalization of downtown. Mm-hmm. I think once that's developed, you're going to see people bike shop, whatever, sporting goods. And I think it's just going to grow from that. And my heart is in Plattsburgh. I've been here. I grew up here. I work here. I teach here. I use the trail every day. My students use it. I teach at Stafford. We use that trail a lot. I kind of want to see it completed before I die. I mean, in my lifetime. It was good to hear that the mayor is so supportive of it, and I hope you are too. I hear a lot of numbers getting thrown around, and I don't really know what's right. I mean, some people say if we turn down this grant, we'll never get another one. I don't know if that's correct. There's a lot of talk about that. Some people say we can use DRI money, which is the larger grant, and help fund the part. I don't know, but I would just like to see this trail completed, and I think it's an important part of the city, and I just hope it moves forward. And I would hate to have to wait for the NYSEG site because I haven't really seen anything happening there since the fall. I tried to call them, but I can't get through corporate, and I don't know when they're going to complete that. It looks like there's a perimeter a road that they worked on and then fenced off. I don't know if that was the Saranac River Trail idea, was what they were thinking of. And if it is, we can work around that site. They fenced it off. They can do their thing. There's a fence there. The trail can follow the curvature of the river, which is supposed to anyway. But once again, I just hope you do the right thing with the Saranac River Trail. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.
And just to clarify, Phase 2 is going forward completely, the sections that you discussed. As a matter of fact, we're having some discussion to see, instead of carrying Phase 2 across Broad Street, when there's kind of a vague way of how Phase 2 gets across Broad Street, then up Durkee Street and then down Bridge Street to join to the trail right along here, we'd like to figure out a way where there could be a Phase 2A where there's actually a river trail that goes along the river between the two bridges, and maybe even under Broad Street. And our engineering people are doing some research to figure out how to get under Broad Street to have a true Saranac River Trail, not a Saranac River Trail, Durkee Street Trail, Bridge Street Trail. So we're absolutely convinced to eventually have a Saranac River Trail all the way along Saranac River. And the area you discussed, that's the area where they're researching bridge alternatives to complete that. So there's no jeopardy at all in Phase 2. We're just trying to decide how to best meld Phase 3 and the DRI in the area that will be happening on the other side of the river, more towards the marina.
I would just like to sort of speak on the same subject as the last one, and express my support for the Phase 3 project, and agree with the fact that there's a lot of talk around about like where the money for the grant could come from, if it could be funded by the DRI, and also the fact that the DRI states that it's supposed to be you're supposed to be able to use it to leverage more funding. So there's a little confusion there among the public, and I'd like clarification on that before making a decision.
Thank you. Any other individuals please come and address the council? Seeing none, let's continue.
Motion to remove item 7A from the table.
Seeing no motion to move 7A from the table, please continue.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves Jean-Pierre Turgeon to hold the 40th annual Omnibus Champlain Sailing Regatta at the Plattsburgh City Marina on August 25th, 2018. They are requesting to install a 40 by 20 tent on the grassy area. Use of electricity and food will be catered. Therefore, insurance certificate, dig safe permit, $20 utility use fee, caterers or insurance and health department certificate are required.
Moved by Councilor Kretzer, second by Councilor Ensel. Discussion.
This will be another sailing race? Is that what it is?
Just a small one.
Although not quite as big as the Mayor's Cup, I presume? All right.
DPW, do you have any concerns of any additional hidden costs on this? I know we've had some recent events where there are hidden costs. And
I don't see anything right now.
any other further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved that in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves Plattsburgh Farmers Market to block off an additional 24 parking spaces for their Homestead Day on August 4th, 2018.
Moved by Councilor Kretzer, second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion.
Just one question, as far as when will the spots actually begin being blocked off? Will it be that Saturday morning, or will it be Friday evening? I'm just, for residents downtown.
Usually we try to block it off Friday evening, that section. Sometimes it's cars there, we put the barricades up so the cars can move in the morning, and then that gives them the space they need. That's how we do it.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Roll call.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
CAPSCSO improvements, water quality improvement act grant
I'd
application.
like to make a motion to waive the reading and move the resolution.
Moved by Councilor Kretzer, second by Councilor Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Discussion on the item.
Just want to say again how much we appreciate John Ruff's efforts on this matter. Thank you, John.
Seeing no more discussion, roll call, please.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
No travel requests at this time. Are there any items for initial consideration?
We did have one, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yes, I did read earlier. I'd make a motion to waive a reading and move to resolution on authorizing Leander Boyer Court bathroom project and Robert S. Long air handler project in partnership with the Plattsburgh Housing Authority, as read earlier during the working session.
Moved by Councilor McFarland, second by Councilor Kretzer. All in favor?
I'd make a motion to implement Rule 4 and go to a vote.
Friendly amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion on the item itself?
I just have one question. It says the bathroom project is all of the work bathroom related. What exactly is the work that's being done?
Now I'll give you the details of the projects they're using for. Okay, so the Leander Boyer Court bathroom project, bathroom renovations will include new tub surround, diverter, waste arm for tub with access panel, shower head and all trim, exhaust fan, medicine cabinet with mirror, sink, toilet, flooring, light, and appropriate outlets. And then the second project to which the money will be put is the Robert S. Long air handler. The project would include the replacement of a rooftop unit that warms and moves air through common spaces within a 60-unit senior high-rise. Robert S. Long Apartments is a public housing high-rise designated for seniors with approximately 70%. Fashion outside, that's just income breakdown. So the cost breakdown for the air handler project is $40K, and for the bathroom project is about $155. And any additional costs will be borne by the Department of Housing and Urban Development Capital Fund Program Grant.
Where, I've never heard of Leander Boyer Court, Bouyer Court. Where is that?
It's across from St. Peter's. St. Peter's?
Okay, I don't know the exact location, but I can certainly find it.
Good, I don't feel so dumb.
And just as we're grateful that John has a series of ranked projects, so if there's a funding application, we can quickly plug one of them in. Same thing with PHA, they had a list of priorities. So when we had this pot of money available to them, they're very quickly, within just a matter of days, able to work with us to find out an amicable solution to this problem. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Spencer?
Yes.
Is there any new business or additional councilor reports at this time? Seeing none, any closing public comments at this time, please come forward.
Hi. My mother has a house at 52 Tremblay Avenue. There's a tree. It's your tree. It's the city's. It has destroyed her driveway. A limb has come down and now blocking the sidewalk. That's her sidewalk.
It's
The
not a
front.
sidewalk, it's a walkway.
A walkway to get to the front door.
door.
So somebody was there Saturday to look.
I don't
Somebody-
know if they were.
Oh, well, you said there was somebody, but anyway.
I thought they were. They were either there or they were strangers from their.
She had called to have it trimmed earlier. Maybe when they trimmed it, that's what weakened the limb. But now, that's down. I'm concerned because she can't get in and out of her front door for emergencies. I'm also concerned she wants to do her driveway over. Why bother? There's humps like this.
It's not just the driveway, it's doing immense damage to my foundation, I
Yeah.
understand. And it has that little walkway from my front door to the driveway is raised. And it's very dangerous.
It's a very large tree. It's grown a lot since it was planted. The city planted it. She's been the only homeowner at that home. She didn't plant it. It's on your
I
property.
didn't ask for it. I wasn't asked what type of a tree I would like.
Something has to be done.
Mr. Dowdle took pictures
Yes, we had
on the
him there.
9th of July.
He shared them with us. Can I ask for a comment from our,
We have it on our list to take it down. We're hoping to take it down either tomorrow or Monday.
The whole tree take down?
Take the whole tree down. However, I don't have any equipment to deal with roots and stuff. I don't take the tree down.
Okay.
So we'll have the stump left and the roots.
That's okay, because if she was gonna do her driveway over, we were digging until we killed the roots.
Oh, okay. But we do have it on our schedule. We're just backed up with
The
trees right
walkway
now.
has to be dug up anyway because it's all raised because of these roots. So you can dig your heart's content.
Well, I don't have digging equipment. so-
Well, whoever, I mean, you can't damage it any more than it's been damaged. That's my feeling.
We will drop the tree.
Okay, do us a favor, don't plant another one.
You won't.
No, I don't want
We won't.
another tree. I
And-
was one time offered to pay because I don't have the city car to pick up. The city will not
Take up the leaves
leaves.
from your
That is the only tree that I have. The trees I have in the back of Boston, the high store. And I did ask the city if they would take those leaves. Now they take them from both sides and across the street to me. And I understand that the county doesn't, Landfill doesn't charge them for those leaves. At that time anyway. However, they said no, they couldn't do that. I said, well, can you charge me a little bit for a couple of bags of leaves? No, they couldn't do that either. So the city has to be very friendly or cooperative with their tree, mind you, that I never asked for.
Well, I'm-
I am sick of this tree.
It's coming in.
By time. It's also raised up from the trunk, so that it's very difficult to mow your parts of grass on that section.
One reason why MLD has a pretty big backlog is because of our recent windstorm that damaged and killed a lot of trees in the city. So they've been working like double time to try to take care of this project, but I'm appreciative that you can get to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Yesterday, I met with Councilor Armstrong about what we could do about the plastic problem that we have. And I want to mention something. Lake Champlain has 7 billion pieces of debris along the shoreline, and that's a problem that I think hasn't really been addressed enough. And so I think we should, while also banning plastic straws, should be important. I also think that we should put more effort of cleaning up the lake and that, because the straws are just a part of like the bigger problem to me of that. And if we don't do it, because this also affects our local ecosystem as well as the global ecosystem. So that's what I wanted to point out.
Okay. Thank you. Good
Thank you
effort.
Thank you so
Good
much for all your
effort.
hard work. I can take a pat all and pass it down if you'd like. Thank you so much.
Any other individuals like to please come address the council? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, roll call?
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Renzel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Spencer?
Yes.
Thank you all, folks.
Councilor Kelly.
Yes, sir.
How you doing today?
I'm doing well, and you?
Take care. First of all, let's start with the budget.
I already missed it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, there are a number of factors that have played into our recent success.